Hi, I'm Austin Davis. I'm a conductor and a member of the Chickasaw Nation. I grew up in Riverside, California, quite far away from my tribal lands in Oklahoma. And being that distant from my people, I often had to rely on indigenous representations in media and pop culture to acquaint myself with native culture. And what this ultimately amounted to was growing up with Disney's Pocahontas and Dance with Wolves, which is inadequate, inaccurate, and certainly no way to familiarize yourself with native culture, but it's ultimately what I had. And I remember kids would say to me things like, "You don't look Native American, you can't be Native American, you don't live in a teepee." And I think what the problem here was that people assumed that we died out some 150 years ago and our way of living has since been lost to time. And based on what representation I had growing up, I would almost be inclined to agree with them. It wasn't until I started college that I started discovering all of these talented indigenous visual artists and fashion designers and authors, and I was finally starting to see that our culture was not only alive, but it was vibrant. Here we were making a name for ourselves on the world stage, but despite all that, we are still not very well represented in the world of classical music. I can name maybe a small handful of indigenous composers who are far from the mainstream, and it's a similar situation with performing musicians. You just don't get the chance to see them. I'm grateful to the Cascade Conducting Masterclass for working towards offering this scholarship for Native American conductors. If we're going to be represented as performers, then a solid foundation is critical to our development. Now, I can safely say that there is really no other workshop like Cascade. Nowhere else are you going to have the opportunity to practice conducting concertos, or opera, or new music even, alongside the symphonic masterworks that we as conductors are expected to know. And being able to work with Sarah and the wide variety of amazing clinicians, including concertmasters and choral conductors, among others, has been a phenomenal experience that I'm very thankful to have had. Who would have thought that being able to meet with a physical therapist at a conducting workshop to teach us about the physiology of conducting would have been such a beneficial experience? You can't get those opportunities other places. It's absolutely critical that natives and indigenous people be given these opportunities to advance in the world of music. We have a voice and a perspective that the world really should hear, and we need to show the people of the world that not only is native culture alive, but we're thriving.